And welcome back. We've talked about integral data types, which have been integers, short ints, signed, unsigned. We've talked about characters, which are also integral data types. One of the other data types that's out there that's also integral is something called a Boolean value. A Boolean value, spelled like that, but actually has the name that, is a type of value that stores true or false. So if you have a variable called run again, this variable can hold true or false. In current versions of C++, we can actually assign that true or false for that matter. So if we wanted to print out run again, that'll print out the value of true. If we change run again to false, we can print out the value false. And in doing so, you can see true is a 1 and false is a 0. In C++, really though, in terms of actually testing of values, comparator operators, true is going to be anything that is not 0. So 0 is false, anything not 0 is true. But we can test it against these keyword true and false values, which are stored both 0 and 1 as appropriate. And that gives us basically all of the stuff we need for storing of data types. In current versions of C++, they have a newish thing. It's called auto. Auto is another way of declaring a variable that says, basically, given the variable name and the keyword auto, whatever you assign to it is what you will turn that into. So in this case, run again would be turned into true, and it would store the true value as a Boolean value and run again. And you'll notice that if we run the code, it works just like it did before. If we store something else like 14 inside this, or 143, and we run this, you'll see that 143 turns into 143, and since false is still an integer, it drops it down and keeps it as a 0. We can turn this thing into a string and call it Bob. And as soon as we do that, it fails because Bob is detected via the auto system as a string. False is not a string, false is a number, so it can't convert this thing from a constant character pointer, which is what Bob would be, into this thing. So it doesn't know what to do. So my advice to everybody is while you're learning the language, get in the habit of declaring the variable types to be exactly what you want them to be. And that way you'll know later on down the road when you have something funny going on that you can't do that. You expect it to be a string. Auto has its strengths and its weaknesses, but for right now and for this course that we're talking about, declare your variables, type them as what they're supposed to be, and work with it, rather than letting the auto keyword take things over. Auto has a lot of power to it, but it's just not something we need at this point in time. And with that, we've pretty much covered most of the data types. We've talked about variables initialization. We've talked about how to make things run and do some basic math. We've talked about how to update all your information about your system in terms of whether the size of the variable is X or Y, how big is it that it's going to go into. And that covers the beginning operators, or at least beginning mathematical operators for stuff, the beginning data types that are primitive, one library type, the string, and we'll talk about more later.